What's up, guys? Before we jump into the video, I've got a few housekeeping items to go through here. So first off, we've got winners. The draw for a weekly subscription to DFS On Demand, including Slack channel access. Those winners are Izzy09 and Jamin Finlaw. Hope I'm saying that right. I'll get in touch with you guys if I have your contact information. If not, feel free to shoot me a note through the website. If you want to be entered into a draw for a week subscription to my site, DFS On Demand, where all the tools come from, join us in the Slack channel. Two ways to do it. You make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and comment below what you would shoot at Medina this week. 7,600 yard par 72. I'd probably be lucky to break 100, maybe. Let me know what you would shoot. That's one way. Or go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, say something nice about the show. You do not need to tell me what you're going to shoot over there. Otherwise, one other thing, we are headed towards the end of the PGA Tour season, and while it is the shortest off season in sports, it's like 2 weeks long. I'm going to take the opportunity to revamp a lot of the tools, add new things. I've already started this process. If there is something you want to see, whether it's a new tool or a tweak to a tool or whatever, tweet me at RickRunGood or comment below. Just get in touch with me. Speak now or forever hold your peace. As usual, if you are in our Slack channel already for being a DFSOD member, you will have the opportunity to test everything first. All right, that's it. On with the show. What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with your one and done preview for this week's BMW Championship. I do apologize in advance. I'm a little under the weather at the moment, but we're going to power through this and knock out one of the last one and done videos of the year. But before we get to the BMW, let's look back at last week's Northern Trust and see where you would have finished if you had one of the top 5 most popular golfers in the contest. Those golfers were Tommy Fleetwood, 308 picks in the pool. Justin Rose, 172. Ricky Fowler, 138. His buddy right behind him, Justin Thomas, 137. And Patrick Cantlay at 119. Flipping over to the leaderboard here, none of those guys broke into the top 10. Justin Rose finished in a T10. Cantlay and Thomas both finished T12. Tommy Fleetwood, disappointing T43. And Ricky Fowler, even more disappointing with the missed cut. There were only 38 of you that had Patrick Reed, so he goes out and gets you the winner's share of the prize pool. John Rahm would have paid for himself with a T3, another big top 10 for Rory. Spieth was up there. So there were some options available as we head down to the final 2 legs of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Where I went was... For the second week in a row, we had Webb, Simpson, and Brandt Snedeker just in separate lineups. Snedeker gave us a scare on, I think it was Sunday. He went out and shot that super low score, got himself up within 2 shots of the lead through 54 holes. Couldn't make a move on Sunday, ended up finishing in a tie for 6th, which is good for $299,000, which honestly is... that's a good number for Snedeker. If you told me when I played Brandt Snedeker, he got you $300,000, that would be a pretty good outcome. Webb Simpson nets us $129,000 with a T18. This is where we're probably going to land on these 2 lineups. Our weekly and our season-long lineups are. It looks like they're both going to finish probably in the top 30, top 25% of the field. Segment 4 was much better. Segment 4, we're probably both these lineups are going to finish in probably the top 10% or so. And then we were 1 click away. I mean, if we had Webb Simpson in our weekly lineup for the Wyndham, as opposed to our season-long lineup, if we just kind of took those last 2 and flipped them back up from season to weekly, the last 2 weeks, we'd be in a pretty good spot in segment 4. But that's not what happened. So for this week, the BMW Championship. As I mentioned last week, we are more so at the point of just making sure you having this week and next week figured out, as opposed to just trying to go week by week here. So I'll show you this is the current FedEx Cup standing. So if you're watching this on The video version, I'm showing the current FedEx Cup standings along with the guys that I have already used in my weekly lineup. So all the guys in red I cannot use obviously this week or next week. And there's some big names also lurking outside the top 30 that we need to consider if you have not played them yet. Like, for example, Hideki Matsuyama on the outside looking in. Currently in 33rd position, needs to get into the top 30 so that you could potentially play him for the Tour Championship. So if you have Hideki left, for example, if you only had like Hideki and Tommy Fleetwood left, you'd certainly have to play Hideki this week because there's no guarantee he's going to get to next week. Tiger Woods, same thing, outside looking in. Presumably, there's going to be some guys that jump in, maybe some guys that fall out, but this might be a week where your hand is forced and you're required to actually burn somebody on the outside looking in because there's no guarantee that he actually gets there next week. Spieth also on the outside looking in. I have already used all of those guys, so my thought process and the things that I have to do left are, okay, which of these guys can I use this week, and which of these guys can I use next week? So it's pretty slim pickings for me. What I've opted to do is go with Louis Oosthuizen this week, who's currently in 28th. And, he's playing well coming in. He's got like two 20th place finishes coming in and a 6th place in his last 3 starts. We've seen him show up in big events. So Louis is someone I'm comfortable playing here, thinking he can go out and get us maybe a top 5. And then I'm going to play, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I'm saving Tommy Fleetwood basically for the Tour Championship. If for whatever reason he fell out, I guess I'd feel comfortable playing Mark Leishman, who's in 16th, but I think I'm pretty safe playing Louis this week and Tommy Fleetwood next week to kind of wrap this up. My season-long lineup that I did back in January has Francesco Molinari in this spot, which is something I absolutely hate. I'm not thrilled to play Molinari. He hasn't played well recently. Even when he made the cut last week, he ended up finishing almost last after that cut. He was in like 82nd. Hasn't played well. I'm not thrilled to play him. The only good thing about Molinari is I might be the only guy on him. So if he goes out and gets the, I don't know what it's going to be, 1.6, 1.8 million bucks for a playoff event, say he goes out and wins that thing, I'm going to jump all of you guys because I'm going to be the only one who has him. So not thrilled about it, but sticking with the system. Additionally, that season-long lineup did have Tommy Fleetwood in it for the Tour Championship next week. So it appears I'm headed for a collision course of playing 2 lineups of Tommy Fleetwood next week, assuming he does not drop out, which I'm not sure that he can. I guess he could. I guess anything can happen. But it looks like I'm going to play Tommy Fleetwood twice next week. Now, what is also interesting, so the Gups Corner One and Done, it does not take into account the new Tour Championship scoring system. So Brooks Koepka, if we were headed to the Tour Championship right now, Brooks Koepka would start at 10 under par. Gups Corner, I'm like 99% sure on this, but Gups Corner is only going to take into account the actual scoring from the tournament, not from what the position is going to be. So if Brooks Koepka goes out and shoots 4 under, he's not going to be 14 under for Gups Corner. He's going to be 4 under, and then it'll adjust the positioning and the scoring accordingly. So it'll actually be a little bit of a different sweat next week. Now, what I do think is interesting, and what would have been a really cool thought process is if the Gups Corner One and Done, or if the One and Done that you are in does take into account Tour Championship scoring, that opens up a lot more possibilities. And it would have been something that we talked about a lot earlier in the season, because you'd almost want to make sure you had the guy who was in first place of the FedEx Cup standings or somewhere at the top available for the Tour Championship, because if Brooks Koepka is going to have a built-in 2-shot lead and 10 shots on the guy in last place, that's obviously very, very valuable if we were going to use that. Additionally, you could have used someone like Abraham Answer. Like Abraham Answer is going to start this. I think 8th place would be 4 under par. something like that. So he's going to be 6 shots off of Koepka, but still have a 4-shot lead over the rest of the field, or the guys in 30th. So it would have opened up a lot more intriguing, game theory decisions that you'd have to make throughout the season. It would have been pretty interesting, but it will not do that this year. We're just going to go straight off of tournament scoring, it sounds like. So there you go. That's it. I can't talk anymore. Those are my one and done picks. We'll do it again next week, and then maybe we'll recap in the off season and get ready for next year. It's only like 2 weeks off, so we'll be right back at it for, I think the Greenbrier is the first tournament of the 1920 season. So let me know who you're playing this week and who you're saving for the Tour Championship. Tweet me. It's at RickRunGood, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. Good luck.